Yo, what is up, everybody? It's Colton Stone here again, and today we're going to talk about some more music theory. Now, there's one other thing about chords that we need to discuss before we move on, and that's chord extensions and how they're built. So if you've ever heard the term like a major 7 chord or a 9 chord or something like that, what it is a basic triad with an extension on top. So let's take a C major chord. And just like before, to build this chord, we skipped every other scale tone. So we skipped the 2nd degree, landed on the 3rd, skipped the 4th degree, landed on the 5th. We're going to do that same thing. Let's skip the 6th degree, and we'll land on the 9. Now we're playing jazz, right? This is a major 7 chord. So we have that 7th degree in there. That's where the name comes from. And of course, major, meaning that's a C major chord with the 7th on top. In a minor context, it's going to change just a little bit because the 7 would be flatted as well as the 3rd. So a minor 7 chord would have the B flat in there. There's one more of these really common 7th chord types, and that's the dominant 7th chord. That's when we take the major triad and we add a minor 7th on top. This is a very bluesy sound. So this naturally happens on the 5th degree of a scale. If we're in the key of C and we look at the G chord, that's the 5th degree. We can see we have our major triad here, right? Everything's normal. But that 7th degree, that would normally come 1/2 step below our root note, it's not there. It's a flatted 7th degree because we have to have F, not F sharp in the key of C. So you get that G dominant chord. So if we want to build a 9 chord now, we're just going to keep following that same idea of skipping every other scale degree. So we take our 7th degree here, that's where we left off. We're going to skip over the root note now. That's our 8th degree, or the octave of our root note. And we're going to skip over it and play this 9th degree. Now you're probably looking at that saying, well, that's the same thing as the 2nd degree. It is, but because it's higher up in the chord and it's not a sus2, we don't want to mistake it for a sus2. We're not going to call this a 2 chord. We're going to call it a 9th chord. All these same ideas apply, so we can play a major 9, we can play a minor 9, we can play a dominant 9, and it would just keep building like that. So the next one after 9 would be 11. That would also be the same as the 4th degree. And then we'd have, after that, the 13. That would be the same as the 6th degree. So if you're looking at this in a song context, there's some times where these chord extensions are more common than others. So for example, the 13 is most of the time only going to be seen on the dominant chord. So if we play a dominant chord here, we're going to add the 13th on top. Okay, that's where it's most common at. If we're having it on the 1 chord, we're probably just going to see it written as a C6. That would sound like this. You're going to usually see that written as a C6, not a C major 13. That's just the way it is. Another thing that's going to be kind of weird is that 11th degree, because the 11, as I said, is the same thing as the 4. So if I play this, you can hear that this 4th degree really clashes with this E being played down here because they're only a 1/2 step away. So most of the time what you're going to see is a sharp 11. Now this is giving us the sound of the Lydian mode. If you don't know what that means, don't worry, you don't have to, and we'll discuss it in a later video. So most of the time when you see that 11th degree on a major chord, it's going to be that sharp 11. You'll see the natural 11 on things like the minor chords and the dominant chords. That's a little more common. But on that major chord, it's almost always going to be a sharp 11. The last type of extended chord I'm going to discuss is the diminished chords. Now we saw that diminished chords were built off of 2 consecutive minor 3rd triads. Now in the context of a 7th chord, with this diminished chord in the bass, the 7th degree, if we keep following that same idea, is going to end up right here. This is actually our diminished 7th, but it's really a 6th degree. So C to A is our 6th degree. So a fully diminished chord is actually going to use the 6th degree instead of that flatted 7. Now if we use the flat 7 instead, that's what's called a half diminished. So using the 6th instead of the flat 7 is going to be called fully diminished, because that comes from the diminished scale, and using the flat 7 is what we're going to call a half diminished. Let's finally bring it back to our number system. Here's that 7th degree. Now this is our half diminished. So if we look at just the basic triad, B, D, and F, well, B to D is a minor third. So we can see whole step, half step, that's our minor third formula. And then from D to F, well, we talked about that already. That's another minor third. All right, if we add the 7th degree on top of that, it's a half diminished because we're not using that 6th degree for it. So if we skip the next note, that would be G, and add this A here, we can see that's a minor 7th degree away from our B chord. So the 7th chord in any key signature is always going to be half diminished. The basic triad is just a diminished triad. If you add that 7th into it, it's going to be half diminished, not fully diminished. All right, guys, I hope that really helped out some of you guys to understand chords a little bit better and how they're built. In later videos, we're going to understand more about the functions of these things. We're going to understand how to use them more. We're going to understand the sounds of them more. But for right now, this gets us on that common language to understand these chord qualities and how to build them. If you did enjoy this video and learn something from it, please remember to like, subscribe, and comment. That really helps us YouTube creators out. And don't forget to hit that bell icon. That lets you know when I post new videos. I post every Thursday new content. And be sure to comment what you want to see in future videos. Also, don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Colton Stone. There's stuff that I post over on Instagram that obviously isn't going to make its way over to YouTube, and it's a great way of keeping up with when I post new stuff on YouTube. It's also a great way of getting in touch with me. If you're interested in session work, gig work, or lessons, I do lessons through Skype and FaceTime, stuff like that, you can shoot me a DM over on Instagram and get in touch with me that way, and we can set something up. Alright guys, that's it for this video, and I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.